True strength does not come from constant movement, but from the wisdom of knowing when to stop. Only in stillness can we hear the truth that haste will never reveal. Wu Hsin. Have you ever stopped to stop? It may sound like a simple question, but what if I told you that most people spend their whole lives running, searching for solutions, trying to fix problems, without ever realizing that true strength doesn't come from speed, but from the pause, from reflection, from the ability to stop and observe what's really happening inside us? In a world that demands us to run non-stop, it's hard to believe that there's power in silence, in stillness. But what if I told you that sometimes the solution to life's greatest challenges comes when you decide to take a pause and just observe? Imagine this. A master, known for his serene calmness, gives a simple request to his disciple. A request that, at first, seems absurd. The disciple, with his mind racing and full of doubts, doesn't understand. He thinks, how can something so simple have so much value? But the master knew that for the disciple to become truly strong, he needed to learn the art of the pause, of reflection. What happened after this simple request would change the disciple's life forever. And that's what we're going to talk about how a simple act of stopping can reveal the true strength that exists within all of us. Now that we've planted this seed of reflection, let's follow this journey. Let's understand what happened when the disciple decided to follow the master's request. Because, as we'll see, true strength isn't in fighting, but in knowing when to stop. One hot summer day, Wu Hsin, a serene and wise master, was walking through the forest with his disciple Ananda. The heat was intense and thirst was pressing. The master, with his usual calm, looked at Ananda and said, "Ananda, go to the stream we passed some time ago. Take my begging bowl and bring me some water. I'm thirsty." Ananda, always eager to serve, immediately set off in search of water. He walked for a few kilometers, but when he reached the stream, something surprised him. What should have been a serene stream was now muddy and contaminated. Ox carts had crossed it, disturbing the leaves and making the water undrinkable. Ananda, frustrated, returned empty-handed. "Master, the water is dirty. It's impossible to drink from it. I'll search further ahead." But Wu Hsin, with his immense patience, looked calmly at him and said, "No, Ananda. Go back and bring me water from that stream. If it's still dirty, just sit by the edge and observe. Don't do anything. Don't enter the stream. Just observe, and the water will clean itself." Ananda didn't understand. How could something so simple bring any result? But the master had asked, and he knew that Wu Hsin's wisdom always had a greater purpose. Even without understanding, he obeyed. And so, Ananda returned to the stream, but this time it wasn't about rushing or fighting against circumstances. He sat by the edge, and for the first time, he simply observed. He did nothing. He watched the muddy water, noticing how it flowed. He didn't know it yet, but the lesson had just begun to unfold in his mind. Ananda sat by the edge of the stream, as the master had instructed, but doubt still consumed him. He looked at the muddy water and wondered, how can this solve anything? How can stopping and just observing clean the water? Time passed, and contrary to what he expected, the water didn't become dirtier. Something extraordinary happened. Slowly, as if being purified by patience itself, the leaves began to move, and the water, once murky and muddy, became clearer and clearer. He watched the movement of the leaves being carried away by the current until the water was calm and crystal clear. The stillness of simply sitting there, observing, brought something Ananda couldn't explain. It wasn't about effort. It was about letting things happen. He realized that, like the stream, his mind also needed time to calm down. It wasn't about forcing things. It was about allowing them to settle naturally. He understood that by stopping, by not acting immediately, he had made space for the solution to arise on its own. The water had cleaned itself, and he found that the same could happen with his mind. The solution comes when we stop trying to control everything. Now, with the water in his hands, Ananda was ready to return to the master. But what he didn't yet know was that this lesson didn't end there. The master was waiting for something deeper, something that would change his understanding of true strength and wisdom. When Ananda returned to Wu Hsin, the bowl was full of clear, crystal clear water. He handed it over with a quiet smile, but something had changed within him. It wasn't just the water that was clean now, but his mind. Wu Hsin, upon taking the bowl, looked into Ananda's eyes and smiled gently. He knew the lesson was sinking in, but there was more. Ananda, with serenity in his gaze, finally understood what the master had been trying to teach him from the beginning. He no longer felt the rush he once did. He no longer felt the need to run after things, to control everything. He now understood that to gain true strength, it wasn't about doing. It was about knowing when to stop, when to simply observe. "I understand now, Master," said Ananda, his voice full of humility. "At first, when I returned to the stream, I couldn't understand. I thought the request was absurd. But when I sat by the edge and observed, I realized that what seemed like an obstacle was actually the solution. The water cleaned itself, just as my mind did. I was so busy trying to force things to happen that I never realized that true peace comes when we stop trying to control everything." Wu Hsin, with a serene smile, responded, "Yes, Ananda. True strength isn't in fighting against the current. It's in knowing when to let it go. By stopping and observing, you allowed things to settle. When you don't interfere, life organizes itself." From that moment on, Ananda would no longer be the same. He now had a new understanding of what it means to be truly strong. He learned that strength isn't in constant effort, but in the wisdom of knowing when to stop and observe. And that would change not only the way he saw the world, but how he would live his life. With time, Ananda's transformation became evident. He was no longer rushing, chasing quick fixes or answers. He had learned the art of the pause, and this skill changed everything. Not just for him, but for everyone around him. Ananda began to realize how life often demands that we be quick, impatient, wanting to solve everything immediately. Society, the world around him, seemed to shout, "Do it, act, achieve now." But Ananda knew that true strength wasn't in blindly following these commands. True strength came from knowing when to not act. Imagine that on a regular day, he found himself faced with a major decision. His heart was heavy, his mind full of questions and doubts. He remembered the master and the lesson of the stream. Instead of acting impulsively as he would have before, he sat at the edge of his mind. He stopped. He observed. And, like the stream that had become clear, his worries began to disappear. He didn't need to force a decision. He allowed himself to be, and in that space of stillness, the answer came naturally. Clarity came from where he least expected, within himself. The art of stopping helped him see more clearly, to make decisions more confidently without haste, with wisdom. Ananda, now more mature, began applying this practice in all aspects of his life. When faced with challenges, he didn't let himself be swept away by pressure. Instead of diving into the chaos of his mind, he simply stopped, observed, and waited for the answer to appear. And most of the time, it did, not as something he needed to fight to find, but as something that revealed itself when he gave time to time. Ananda, now calmer and at peace with himself, knew that true strength came from the ability to observe, to allow life to unfold naturally. He understood that meditation wasn't a technique or a struggle. It was simply the art of stopping. But there was still something deeper that he needed to learn, something even more profound, which the master was still waiting to share. As time went on, Ananda's transformation became visible. He was no longer rushing, chasing after quick answers. He had learned the art of stopping, and this ability changed everything, not only for him, but for everyone around him. Ananda began to realize how life often demands that we act quickly, impatiently, wanting to solve everything right away. Society and the world around him seemed to shout, "Do it, act, achieve now." But Ananda knew that true strength didn't lie in blindly following those orders. True strength came from knowing when to do nothing. Imagine that, on any given day, he found himself facing a big decision. His heart was heavy, his mind clouded with questions and doubts. He remembered the master and the lesson about the stream. Instead of rushing to make a decision as he might have done in the past, he sat at the edge of his mind. He stopped. He observed. And just like the stream, his worries began to settle. He didn't need to force a decision. He allowed himself to just be. And in that stillness, the answer appeared naturally. Clarity came from within himself, not from outside. The art of stopping helped him see things more clearly, make more confident decisions, and take action with wisdom and patience.